special edition of the closed fist, and it's special because we got the big guy back, the Nightmare.
Ooh, attaboy. You're getting better at that.
I'm getting better at that. Yeah, you know, I got a little anger in me today.
Listen, man, I understand.
Wow. Minus Joey, unfortunately, he's on. We gave him a day off. He's on vacay.
We rotate those every once in a while.
Every once in a while.
Except for you.
Except for me.
Yeah, you are never leaving.
I'm never. I'll sleep in the bar if I have to.
Yeah. All right.
Nah, we don't want that. It's Will, Nightmare Derek Joz, and of course I'm Russ. And and great to have you back, my friend.
Great to be back. I've missed doing this with you guys. It was a lot of fun the last time, and finally figured out showing up to one of these. So.
But you have another fight coming up.
I do.
Rochester,
the Main Street Armory again, February 3rd. It's Saturday before the Super Bowl, and it's kind of nice because I get to actually watch the Super Bowl and have a little bit of fun because. Since the holidays, I haven't been able to have a whole lot of fun. It's actually why you guys haven't seen me at the bar.
Oh, gee. Yeah. My goodness. So tell us about the fight coming up.
Well, I mean, it's my second one. I had a little time off here for some business, personal reasons, stuff like that. And then, it's just going to be hopefully more of the same of what I showed last time.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this guy's coming in from, I think, D.C., I believe. And I'm pretty sure he's driving a long way to get his ass kicked.
I did have a chance to watch some of the footage with you. Big guy.
Another big boy.
Another big boy. From your previous fight to this fight, how much has your strategy changed?
I'm focusing a lot more on speed. Just being faster, being more meticulous, more of a technician. Okay. With my extensive martial arts background, I know I can throw punches and I know I can make them hurt. It's just a matter of being faster and getting ready for the future. I could do more of the same and just throwing a lot of power punches and trying to hit the home run every time I throw a punch. Me and my coach Mark have been really working on picking my spots, working off the jab and, being more meticulous with it. And then when the opening presents itself, swinging for that home run. And the thing he tells me all the time is everybody in the world knows you have power. Right. You're going to come out. Basically, I want to come out this time and look like a different fighter. I want to look like I'm a little bit more schooled, a little bit more polished, and I want this guy to not be ready for the speed that's coming at him.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I just had a question. Kind of doubling on what you said. You said you have an extensive martial arts background. What discipline is it in? I've never knew. I've known you for a long time. I've never knew.
I started taking Shotokan karate. It's a very traditional Japanese-based martial art.
Okay.
And one of the reasons that the power behind my punches is what it is because the entire philosophy of Shotokan is to kill with one blow.
Oh, okay.
Basically, a lot of stylists teach, especially when you start talking, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, stuff like that, get on the ground and grapple and choke and break and everything else. And, Shotokan is like, listen, the longer that happens, the more likely it is that something else happens.
Yeah.
If we're fighting, we're on the ground and somebody runs by and punts me in the side of the head, it's going to be a problem. And, then out of nowhere, it becomes, a thing where we end up going through and I apologize. I'm tired. I lost my train of thought here. So
explain the discipline. That's all.
Yeah. So and basically, the entire concept is the faster I can get the hell out of here.
Yeah, absolutely.
The better off I'm going to be. Mm-hmm. It's basically if I could put you out with one shot, why waste the energy otherwise?
Cool. Now when you go from the martial arts, from what you just described, transitioning that discipline to MMA. How difficult has that been, or has it been?
It really hasn't been. I studied Shotokan for so long that when you start off, everything's very deep, very rigid. The same thing you see in different styles of Isshinryu. Kempo's very very rigid like that. Taekwondo starts off that way too. To the best of my knowledge, I've never actually taken Taekwondo. I just know what I see on through videos and everything else. It's just the more you get into a style, the more you go from a deep, rigid stance to standing up and more practical movement and everything else. And the biggest transition for me is working angles. Most traditional martial arts are naturally very linear. It's a lot of north-south, and the best way to how do you not get hit by a train? Train goes two ways, right?
Yeah.
How do you not get hit by it? Don't stand on the tracks.
Right.
And that's exactly what this transition has been for me, is learning to You know, if you got a guy who's going to come straight forward, step off the tracks and work an angle. And by stepping off at angles, you open up more opportunity for yourself and more openings against them.
Yeah.
And that's really been one of the biggest eye openers for me, is just working a more rounded fight as opposed to just doing this.
Now you have an athletic background as well. You played
Yes.
you played high school football.
High school, I played a year of college football ish.
It's all about the ish.
Yeah.
How much has that helped you?
I firmly believe that martial arts helped me through athletics more than athletics helped me through martial arts until now.
Okay.
You know, you see, I think martial arts traditionally gets a weird rap because you get a lot of kids that necessarily aren't athletes that take martial arts. You know, it's a tough thing to say because, I mean, I look at some of the people that I've trained with, and they're some of the more savage individuals I've ever met. At the same time, you know, I look at one of my longtime, friendly competition partners through my original studio, and the kid was a nerd.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very good. But he was a nerd. He overanalyzed everything, and it's something that actually when I started, he was an orange belt, and it wasn't a style where your teacher looked and said, "Good job, Billy," pat you on the ass, gave you an electrical tape black stripe around your belt and said, you get 2 more of those, I'm going to give you a different colored belt. It was something that was, we had to travel to Rochester every 3 to 4 months and test in front of the head of the national organization we were part of. And it was stuff like that. Right. So it was a long road, and I actually ended up getting my black belt before he did. He started at least 2, if not 2.5 ranks ahead of me.
Now, coming into this fight, as opposed to your last fight, how do you feel like having a fight under your belt, knowing what to expect, and whatever that, how much is that helping you coming into this fight?
It definitely helps because some of the overall nerves aren't there. The closer I'm getting, the more hyped up I'm getting, the more amped up I'm getting. Yeah. It's one of those things that I have an idea of what to expect. Right. The first one you walk into and you're like, and we talked about this the last time I was here, just the entire change of atmosphere of what I'm used to from an athletic contest. The kind of, in high school you have the rigid, at a couple hours, an hour or 2 before the game, you're getting taped up, you're getting ready, you're getting loose, then you have team warm-ups, the announcements, and then you go. The older you get, and I've still play amateur sports with hardball and some competitive flag football and stuff. It becomes closer to more of what we call like a show and go. Show up kind of all right, let's go to work. And this is something different. It's a longer time frame, but I know what I'm getting myself into now, so I can kind of pump the brakes on the nerves a little bit and stuff like that. And,
yeah.
Like I said, I've seen footage of my opponent, and he's very similar to the last guy, but I'm not going in there with the idea that I'm gonna just clean this guy's clock in 1 minute and 4 seconds and walk home, and get out of there. But here's to hoping, right?
Yeah, right.
Now we've talked off camera and whatnot about cutting weight.
Yeah.
And everything, and what goes into that kind of thing. You don't have to cut weight for this fight.
For this fight, no. Okay. I'm working on getting down because eventually I do want to fight in the heavyweight class, which is 265, at the tops. Mm-hmm. And there's more competition down there. There's more heavyweight fighters and super heavyweight fighters. Obviously, when you start talking about athletic people who, if you think about the weird sect that I fit into, I'm around 300 pounds. I'm crazy enough to want to be at 30 years old, still be this athletically involved between all the sports I play and now fighting, and being okay with regularly getting punched in the face. There's not a whole lot of us out there. And I'm going to say this flat out. If there's anybody who wants to step into the MMA who's over 265, I am always looking for wrestling partners and sparring partners. Yeah. Come on down. Gotta love a good shameless plug, right?
Hey.
But it's one of those things that jumping down to that weight class, there's more people that fit that realm than this realm. Right. So by getting down to 265, which was originally my weight loss goals, and fighting has given me more purpose to get toward that. I got to a point where I was hovering between 290 and 300 pounds, and I was dominating people on a flag football field, and I was playing baseball better than I had since I was 20. I had the power back in my swing and everything else, and it was just like, okay, I'm good here. And fighting has kind of given me a purpose to get back to it. And a lot of the reason that I've kind of fluctuated between where I'm at between, you know, all the personal stuff that me and you were talking about earlier that kind of caused my last fight to fall through, and then, you know, this longer hiatus that I've been on, between all that and then, you know, the physiology of my body is changing, you know, the entire form of my body.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, my chest and shoulders have always been big. They're bigger now than they were when I was, you know, ever playing football, and the middle of me is kind of doing this. But when that happens, your weight kind of hovers a little bit, and then I'm hoping eventually I just see it start doing this as a whole. So.
Right. So, I mean, your future plans is to eventually be in the heavyweight
yes.
division. Talk about the difficulties about the cutting weight process, because we see, you know, you hear about the high school wrestlers, you hear about MMA today, because you know, Conor McGregor went up a weight class,
Yes.
because he came out and said cutting that weight before every fight is just becoming too much of a task.
You know, I've been around, especially the last couple of years, around the fitness industry, the MMA industry, and everything else. And I actually wrote like a blog. Every now and again I jump on Tumblr and just clear my brain,
right?
Because God knows I have to with everybody that's talking to me up there. And I actually wrote something about the weight cut and how dangerous it can be.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and there's different ways to do it. You know, if you give yourself time, anybody can do it. But I mean, how much time do you have? You know, when I got out of my last fight, when I weighed in at 298, I had talked to and taken a fight that was, I believe, a month and a half to 2 months later, and I was going to have to continue cutting that weight down to 265. And you know, there was the talk of the short. I mean, it was, I believe it was 6, maybe 7 weeks tops.
Wow.
And I mean, to drop another 36 pounds, whatever it was, in 6 weeks. I mean, you talk about things that, you know, that's dangerous.
You're wearing 5 sweatshirts a day, chewing tobacco, all that stuff. I know all the old wrestling tricks.
And that's the thing. It was actually one of the guys in my last fight didn't quite make weight. And there was a little incident where he thought he was fighting a weight class higher. He thought he was fighting 195. He was actually fighting 185. He weighed 199 when he showed up, which is a problem.
Right.
You know, and that's a communication issue on a couple fronts and everything, but you know, we're not going to get into that. But to get down, I mean, we're talking about a guy who they hauled a stationary bike into a sauna that they turned on high.
Yes.
And the kid was in there wearing garbage bags with chewing tobacco in his mouth for 45 minutes.
Filling up 2-liter bottles.
And like, and he would sit there, and then one of the more interesting sides of this was to get every ounce. They shaved every blade of hair off this poor soul, except for the hair on the top of his head, which was already buzzed-ish. Like, you know,
Well, there's a mistake right there.
and I will never forget the image of watching my coach scrape the sweat off this kid's bare ass with a credit card. So this kid's literally standing like this, butt ass naked, and this guy is just taking, it was actually a Dave & Buster's card, and just scraping the sweat off. And because he had to get within, I believe, 6 or 7 pounds of the weight class for his opponent to take the catch weight fight.
I just have this visual now. Thanks, John.
Well, I actually used to have the pictures somewhere. I'll see if I can find them and send them to you. I don't know if my former teammate would appreciate that too much, but it was.
Something tells me that Dave & Buster's card was rejected at Dave & Buster's.
Something tells me that Dave & Buster's card ended up in a garbage can at the gym that day.
I lost the card. What do you mean you lost the card?
I mean, it's gone by.
It's gone by. Oh my goodness. So
it means I need a new one.
now, I mean, is there like a time frame that you can put on yourself when you cut weight, or is it just, or is it just a thing that where it's a process and you have and you just go through it?
It's a process and you go through it. I mean, and like I said, it all depends on how you want to do it. You know, how crazy you want to be. You know, there are some people I know for fitness shows that, you know, they'll start at 12 to 14 weeks out from getting on stage and posing, and they may have 1-2 meals, not days, meals that break the mold of their diet. And a lot of these people are miserable.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't blame them. I would be too. And I know, like, when I really start that hard weight cut down to 265, I'm probably not going to be a whole lot of fun to be around a lot.
You know what? I mean, it's almost like, you know, as I remember in high school. Yeah, I remember high school.
Don't look at me.
What was that like what, the 50s?
Yeah.
The 20s, something.
Sorry, couldn't let that one slide.
Yeah.
All I remember is guys walking around with a cup, and they would spit in it. The spit cup. Now, when you talk to, because you teach a little MMA
Here and there.
Here and there.
I don't consider myself in the realm of being a overly viable teacher. I can teach some basics,
Right.
But I don't want to try to oversell myself and say like I can get you ready for an MMA fight.
Right. I
So-
mean, how much are do you discuss the dangers
I mean,
of weight cutting?
The dangers of weight cutting is something I don't think that's talked about enough, to be honest with you. There was one girl I was working with who kept saying she wanted to fight, and whether or not that ends up happening is yet to be seen. But I mean, we started talking about diets and stuff like that, and I mean, and that's where it starts, is what you're putting in your face. Right. And you got to be able to put enough in that you're going to survive and have energy to do what you need to do. But at the same time, you can't be putting in garbage. It's like, you're basically trying to turn your body into a highly functioning, high performance vehicle.
Right.
And if you put garbage fuel in and garbage oil in, it's not going to run right. And that's where it starts. And then it's, getting your cardio up, but not doing so much cardio that your body starts eating muscle instead of fat. And then it's how much you sleep, how much water you drink. I mean, you guys can see off camera over here, I have my gigantic American flag gallon of water that I need to get in for the day.
There's a reason why he's his size, because that thing is gigantic. I mean,
but I mean, that stuff's no joke. And then, you start talking about people who don't do it necessarily the cleanest of ways. And we've talked, especially with, the pro wrestling stuff and some of the rumors and the nipples that have gone around. It's
pimples and stuff. That just,
you start talking about the unnatural ways to get in shape and to cut weight and stuff like that. And then, you always run the risk of getting caught with stuff like that and everything else. And it's, all of that stuff is dangerous. But what's more dangerous, putting a chemical in your body that's not supposed to be there, or an overabundance of a chemical your body already makes, or starving yourself?
You kind of have to
fine line. It's like anything, a fine line with whatever you do.
Yeah, and then it's all a means to an end. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, are you willing to potentially make your heart explode inside your chest with what you're putting into yourself, or are you willing to let your body completely shut down because you're running on empty? So
now going into this fight, how? What are you doing from here on out? Any specific changes, or is it just maintaining?
I mean, it's really
about 2 weeks out. Sorry,
about in there, yeah.
About 2 weeks away. Sorry.
It's one of those things that right now it's going to be. I'm going to still be turning up the cardio because that's the big one.
Right.
I'm still going to be lifting. I'm going, like I said, going against a big boy. Don't want to risk losing any kind of strength against a guy this size, and it's literally just going to be going through and just keeping on, and hoping I can keep cutting down.
All right. Well, it's going to be at the Main Street Armory in
Rochester.
Son, you done.
But I do have to say, I like his philosophy about stepping out of the way of a train. Bit from earlier. I didn't want to cut Billy off. You guys are on a roll, so I'm just going to kind of let it go. But I said, I like that. I said, you need to start a philosophy podcast or something like that. The philosophy of Joz.
I've actually considered, doing my own. Me and Russ have talked about this a few times. I started my own thing, and
But the philosophy, like I said, he's got Confucius say, whatever it is, but he's got a few in there.
That could be a T-shirt.
There you go.
Confucius sit down.
Can Joz say? Is that a thing?